Welcome to another episode of the Maryland Made Podcast. The Maryland Made Podcast provides timely, relevant, and practical information to empower student athletes to become leaders, develop professional possibilities, and be conscientious advocates in both their local and global communities. I am Walt, the Big Ten Fellow in the Maryland Made unit here. And joining me today is Emma DeBerdine, a junior on the Terps Field Hockey team. I'm excited to dive into this conversation with Emma and discuss her student athlete journey here at Maryland, but also talk a lot about her NIL journey, as well as her NIL experience and just how NIL is shifting the student athlete experience. Emma, first things first, how are you feeling today?
Pretty good.
All right, I'm excited to talk with you here and get into this conversation. I saw one of your articles that you wrote as a Gossip Fellow here this year that really stood out to me, and it kind of talked about your NIL experience. So definitely wanted to reach out to you and bring you on a podcast to share your story with the rest of the student athletes out there and just kind of give your perspective on how NIL has shifted kind of your experience. So before we get into that, just tell our listeners out there who you are.
I'm Emma DeBerdine. I'm a junior on the Maryland Field Hockey team. I major in marketing in the Robert H. Smith Business School. I started playing field hockey when I became a ball girl for our high school field hockey team in 3rd grade. And then I started playing competitively around 5th grade. I realized that I could start playing college hockey when I was emailed by a college coach in 8th grade. And things have changed a lot since then. They could reach out to us a lot when we were a lot younger back then, when I'm really happy that that's changed to move into a later age group for the incoming college student athletes. But yeah, that my first email was when I decided that, wow, I can actually see myself playing in college. And I chose Maryland because of the competitive and family atmosphere here. Everyone pushes one another to reach their full potential academically and athletically. And my older sister, Brooke, just graduated this past December, and I wanted to be able to play with her for 2 years. It turned into 3 years because of her COVID year. But just having the opportunity to play with her and then make life a little bit easier for my parents, because they put so much into us for field hockey wise and wanted to make it easy for them to come watch us play.
No doubt. And that's always a great thing. I guess I'm sure your parents were definitely happy that they got to see you and your sister play. And being from Lancaster, PA, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm from Philly, so not too far from Lancaster, but also relatively close to Maryland as well. So I'm sure that's a great thing as well. And playing with your sister, and I've had a lot of success in general in terms of the field hockey team here at Maryland. Y'all always go to the NCAA tournament and go pretty far. But kind of how has that experience been playing field hockey here at Maryland?
Yeah, it's been a great experience. I personally believe that we have the best coaching staff in the country. They just put so much into us and just really respect us as people and just want us to succeed in any way and just become the best women that we can. Just have a lot of respect for our coaches and all of my teammates, and the athletic department here at Maryland is just incredible.
No doubt. And in addition to playing for the University of Maryland, you will also be representing the United States and competing for the under 21 is World Cup. Is that correct?
Junior World Cup.
Okay, under 21 Junior World Cup this spring in South Africa. So tell me a little bit about that experience and kind of what does that mean representing your country and competing internationally?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of opportunities with the Junior USA program. I've been able to travel to Ireland, Germany, Chile, and soon South Africa, which is so exciting. Just being able to put on the USA jersey is just a kind of surreal experience. And it just makes me feel so proud and want to represent my country in the best way possible. And I just think that it's just been one of the best opportunities that I've had in my life.
Yeah, that's super cool. I always wish that I haven't traveled much internationally, but South Africa seems like a cool opportunity, a cool place to travel. But I mean, that's amazing that you and a few of your teammates will be playing together and representing the U.S. At the Junior World Cup. So best of luck and huge congratulations for making the team.
Thank you.
In addition to that, you are also, like I said at the top, a Gossip Fellow. So one of the premier career readiness programs, I believe, across the country that really prepares student athletes to be leaders, but also preparing y'all for, professional success. Like once your time as a student athlete is up. Talk a little bit about that experience as a GASA fellow, and kind of how have you maintained balancing being a student athlete, but also being a GASA fellow, and then also, competing internationally as well. So like, how has that balance been with everything?
Yeah, well, to start with Gossip Fellows, Tim Bryson has done an incredible job with making sure that he's bringing in guest speakers and giving us activities and work to do to make sure that we know exactly what we want to do after graduation and post sport. And I'm personally someone who did not like to get out of my comfort zone and think about the future past field hockey because I didn't know for a while, but being a Gossip Fellow has really forced me to do that and really look at myself and know what I want to do and the steps that I need to get there. And Tim, I definitely owe him a lot for pushing me to do that. So definitely recommend that to all Maryland student athletes. And then balancing my responsibilities as student athlete. As I said, my coaches are just like very respectful of everything, both for USA and for Maryland, and making sure that we're not burning ourselves out and that we still have a love for the game and a love to come to practice and play and be around our teammates. I just think that it's all about setting your priorities like in an order and making sure that you're setting around time to get things done, but then setting aside time to really enjoy yourself and enjoy what you're doing in the moment.
Love that a lot. That's so important for all students, all college students in general, like just coming, being away from home a lot of times for the first time and having a lot of responsibilities kind of pushed into you. But for student athletes specifically, it's even, more important to make sure that you have your priorities in line, make sure you have that, that balance. So shout out to you and all of y'all Gossip Fellows doing big things. So super impressive. But, in addition to Gossip Fellows, in addition to playing field hockey and competing internationally, NIL has also kind of come into this conversation as an added responsibility for student athletes and an opportunity for y'all to finally be able to profit off of your likeness and your name. But has that element of, the NIL added any more responsibilities to your plate, or like how has that been for you?
Yeah, so my sole sponsorship right now is with STX Field Hockey, and they don't exactly demand that much more than social media posts and making sure that I'm representing their brand respectfully and at the level that they want. So I've just tried to add these small responsibilities into my daily routine, making sure that I'm staying connected with them. It just feels like another bit of schoolwork, honestly, just sending out emails and doing posts just like that. It's really hasn't taken over a lot of my life.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know that you seem to have a handle on that. But looking at just NIL in this conversation, I actually was doing the Leadership Academy last night in our session. We talked a lot about NIL. Actually, they had a debate where kind of the question was if NIL, the NIL policy, has this resolved the debate about like should student athletes be paid? And that was kind of I joked like when I was a student athlete back in 2014 and 2018. The big debate was always should college athletes get paid, and no one really knew what that would look like. I'm sure like the NIL rumblings were there, but this past summer, the NCAA had their NIL policy, and of course it's different state to state, but for the most part, there is opportunities for student athletes to be able to benefit off their name, image, and likeness. So kind of take me back to that moment last summer. I guess it was like late June, early July when the NCAA made that decision. And kind of like, what were your initial thoughts when you heard that this could be an opportunity for you all?
Yeah. So honestly, when the NIL policy, it was building up, and then it finally came through, and I was just like, okay, this is really probably going to only benefit football players, basketball players. It's really not like field hockey's not a huge sport in the US. It probably won't have anything to do with me. So I wasn't really expecting much. But there have been a lot of opportunities for smaller sports, such as field hockey, that have come through with this new policy. And that's really exciting for me to see.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things that kind of stands out to me and a lot of people is just that, like you said, like traditionally people think of the revenue generating sports, which, basketball and football, just because a lot of their games are broadcast nationally on TV, and you have to pay fees to go to the games and things like that. So everyone kind of thought that those sports would really be heavily, I guess, focused on, NIL deals and things like that. But I think the fact that you said like sports like field hockey, who may not have as big of a following in the United States, or traditionally thought of as a revenue generating sport. But I think it's been cool to see, yourself and many of your teammates have been able to get deals. But like, what were some of those conversations that you and your teammates had when kind of, I guess, starting to figure out what does this truly mean, but also like what are the deals that y'all could kind of get?
Yeah, well, at first it was kind of a joke. My one teammate for USA, she loves Skittles, has Skittles on the bench with her during every game, and she just kept going on. She's like, I emailed Skittles a few times. They haven't decided to sponsor me yet. So a few of them were just like jokes like that. And then once we started going to workshops, the University of Maryland had us set up with Open Doors and a few other services. And then we just started talking about finding sponsorships and partnerships and finding brands that would fit our personal brand and really attain to us. And we talked a lot about how we didn't just want to associate ourselves with any brand, but with brand that definitely like meant something to us and things that we would use or things that we really enjoyed and stuff like that.
I got you. And I like that a lot. And I'm glad that y'all were aware, because I do remember like it was kind of like just like a free for all. Everyone was just trying to figure out like what to do. And I think, the fact that you, I guess, and your teammates and we're having those conversations about understanding like what brands kind of align with your values. And I think that's a huge piece for student athletes out there to make sure that they know what they're signing up for. They know who they're associating with. So I'm glad that y'all we're having those important conversations. And kind of go back to like those conversations with like Open Doors. Like, what were some of like the biggest questions that you had going into it?
My biggest thing was if brands would even like want to reach out to me, because I'm female student athlete, field hockey player, not huge. Like, so I was just thinking that it was kind of just not really worth it for me to do these kinds of things. But then the more that we got into it, the more we talked to these companies and these brands and stuff, it just made it seem a lot more real, and that it was actually something that we could get on board with and really take advantage of the opportunities.
For sure. And I think something too that I've kind of realized too is like, it doesn't always have to just be money, right? Like sometimes it can just be gear, or it can be equipment, and like whatever it is that can, or food, like whatever it is that can kind of like, lessen your finances, your financial situation a little bit is like a benefit in a way. And I think, a lot of that stuff was long overdue, right? Like if you're already using that equipment, or like, why not be able to get it for free, right? So I think that's a cool opportunity. And you mentioned being able to partner with STX Field Hockey. And reading your LinkedIn article, I don't want to steal your thunder. I'll let you kind of explain about that experience. But like, why was that important to you to be able to, I guess, partner with STX?
Yeah, so I've been using an STX stick since I was in middle school, and I've always followed their sponsored athletes who are frequently Maryland alums, such as Katie Bam and Linnea Gonzalez, just like incredible women and incredible field hockey players that have just been sponsored by STX. So I've always gotten to see that, I use the stick that all of these incredible players use. And then a week after the NIL policy came through, I got an email from STX asking if I'd be interested in a sponsorship opportunity. And I was honestly just shocked. I was like, wow, this is actually happening. And they just provide like such great gear and gear that I've been using forever. So it just seemed like, why would I not support them and kind of have them support me too through my process. And my experience with them has just been incredible. They've been so respectful and awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool, right? Like using that brand for your whole life almost, and then being able to partner with them, and that's pretty cool to me. But looking at your LinkedIn article, kind of like what sparked you to write this, right? Like I think it was like, one of the prompts was like mission and values, or something else that was kind of near and dear to you. but why NIL and why, sharing this story about your STX experience?
Yeah, I just thought that it was just an incredible experience that I just wanted other people to know about, because it's just an opportunity that I would have never had if this policy wouldn't have gone through. And I just thought that other people should like see the opportunities that the policy can take you. Because I can take you through the LinkedIn article, kind of how it happened. So yeah, so this past December, I was invited to a photo shoot with all of the college level STX athletes in Baltimore. And this included about 15 of us from field hockey, men's and women's lacrosse. And the weekend began with all of us going out to dinner with the STX staff and all the athletes, which was really cool to get to meet all of these like crazy lacrosse athletes that I've seen before. And a few of them just won national championships. So it's just cool to just meet all of them. Yeah, so then the next morning we met at the studio for breakfast, and then they started taking us to do hair and makeup, which I had no idea that was even going to happen. It made it feel like I felt so important, but we just took photos in a few different outfits and locations around Inner Harbor. And it was just an unforgettable experience. And when I was talking to my parents about it, I was like, this was probably the coolest thing I've ever done. And they're like, oh, come on. I was like, no, seriously, that was really, really cool. So yeah, just that whole experience was just awesome. And I thought that without NIL and like without being able to partner with STX, someone like a brand that I really respect and always like looked up to, it just wouldn't have happened. So
no doubt. I mean, hearing you speak about that and even reading an article, I was like, yeah, this is a super, super cool experience. And, definitely, I can say, I mean, seems like it would have been, one of the best moments of anyone's life. So I'm definitely good to hear that you really enjoyed that experience. But what was your biggest takeaway from that experience?
I would say my biggest takeaway from that is just to kind of jump at any opportunity, because I had no idea that going to meeting in Baltimore for a photo shoot was going to turn into that sort of experience. And if I could have denied it, I could have just said, no, that's okay. Like, I don't really need to, or I'm just not really going to do that. Like, if I wouldn't have gone and met all those people, I wouldn't have had connections and friendships that I do now. And I wouldn't have had that incredible experience.
I gotcha. I love that. Yeah, definitely a great opportunity, and being able to, like you said, with Gossip Fellows, kind of like being able to step out your comfort zone and just kind of, go for it. I think it is so important, especially with NIL continuing to kind of evolve. And you also mentioned being like a marketing student and being in the business school here at Maryland. Have you, felt like that being a marketing student and kind of like having that business kind of mindset has helped you at all in your NIL journey?
It's definitely been interesting, because I was actually in business law learning about contracts when I was working through my contract with STX to try to understand how that was all going down and try to understand the terminology behind that. So that was pretty cool to talk to my class about that and to like actually know what they were saying in the contract. Mm-hmm. But also I feel like the other way around, I've learned a lot throughout my NIL journey that's helped me a lot in the business school and learning more about how business works. I feel like I've had a lot of experiences now that I wouldn't have like known or had before that actually helps me through my schoolwork as well.
No doubt. That's cool. Cool. I didn't even really think about it on the other end, but that's kind of great how you were taking a class that kind of related to everything that you were experiencing and going through. I know I was talking to a few like student athletes in terms of like some things that I guess most people don't really know about NIL in terms of like its taxable income, or like how to read a contract, or like how to just handle business and be kind of a business person while still being a student athlete. So this is new territory for everyone. So it's cool that you are aware of kind of that business aspect of it all. Maryland May, like our pillars are like career readiness, leadership education, and identity development. And you kind of hearing you like speak in terms of like the career piece, but like, have you seen, this NIL journey kind of correlating or like paralleling to any of the other Maryland May pillars?
Yeah, definitely identity development. I feel like through this process, as I said, I've really looked more at myself and what I want to represent and what I want to be known for. So partnering with brands, I don't want to associate myself with a brand that I don't fully align with or doesn't really reflect like who I am. So definitely looking more into myself and understanding my identity and working through that is one of the Maryland Made pillars that definitely aligns with NIL.
Absolutely, no doubt. That's a good piece, and I think definitely, again, I think it's so important for young student athletes to make sure that they are aligning themselves with brands that they want to be represented by. I'm sure there's a lot of brands out there that may want to take advantage of young students, but like making sure that you truly understand, what this means for you, and making sure that that your voice is heard through it all. I think it is so important and impactful. And March is Women's History Month as well, so I definitely want to touch on this. But you talked about a little bit earlier that when everything was announced, you were thinking that this may be something that only like football players and basketball players could take part in, but like over time and over the process, like you've seen non-revenue generating sports get an opportunity to be able to get NIL deals and partner with brands. But I've really been impressed as I've seen female college athletes really be able to get deals and really excel through this NIL process and with the NIL policy. And I think it's a huge win for women's college sports, and hope this continues. But what have you seen in terms of the role that NIL can have maybe on the exposure or just like the, I guess, expanding of women's college sports?
Yeah, so I definitely think that brands are doing a great job of making sure that they're working to even the playing field a little bit when it comes to NIL and within college sports. And I think that from what I've seen, brands are not focusing on female athletes just that are big basketball players, like big names, but they're also focusing on other athletes, lacrosse, soccer, field hockey, tennis. They're looking at these athletes and they're seeing something in them that can really support their brand, and getting to know, I feel like, these women individually and looking at what makes them special rather than just their the sport they play and the accolades that they have or what school they go to. So I think that it's been a huge step having all of these brands support and partner with female athletes. And I think that it's definitely going to keep growing.
No doubt, man. That's exciting, super exciting for all student athletes listening, especially our female student athletes listening and understanding like that you bring a unique perspective to the college athletics landscape and to the world, honestly, and being able to utilize y'all platform and really own your power and be able to build your brand well beyond the playing fields. I think is something that I've really been curious to see how this continues to grow. And I'll ask you, hearing you speak about the whole landscape of it, but like why is NIL kind of important to you, and why was like being able to get a deal big for you?
I think that it just shows how respected collegiate student athletes are starting to become. Not that they weren't respected before, but I think that this just kind of makes them feel better. I mean, it makes me feel like a lot more respected to society, kind of, and knowing that I bring something to the table, and outside of my athletic achievements, that I have something outside of that to offer. I just think that it just really shows how supported collegiate athletes can be.
No doubt, for sure. And I'll ask you kind of moving forward, right? And when we look at NIL, of course, like it's kind of still brand new. Every state is different, university to university, conference to conference. The laws are very different. So we're still at the early stages, but like, what do you think in terms of like the growth or like next steps that you would like to see personally, but also like globally as well? Like, what would you like to see?
Yeah, obviously the our international athletes aren't able to get NIL sponsorships right now, so I think that'd be a huge next step. I mean, they're playing and studying here too. I think that they deserve to be on an equal playing field for us, for sure. And then personally, I just hope to keep looking and find brands that fit how, like, who I am and what I want to give off to the world to come.
Gotcha. I like that a lot. And yeah, I mean, I think the international student athlete piece is the big thing right now that I feel like they need to figure out. I mean, they've had, I feel like, more than enough time to figure this out. And there's been too many international student athletes that have really, built college athletic programs and help, college athletic programs win championships and, and get a lot of other, international talent to those universities. So making sure that we figure out a way to reward them. I think it's something that's long overdue and definitely needs to happen soon. And my last kind of question, NIL related, is kind of what advice would you give to either younger student athletes or student athletes that are, kind of scared or afraid to kind of, put themselves out there and get NIL deals? What's your, I guess, wise words for them?
I would say to take everything one step at a time. Don't just rush into any deal that comes your way or just be like, oh, great, I have a brand that wants to sponsor me. I'm going to do it. But rather just take it one step at a time, really understand yourself, understand the brand that you're going to be partnering with, and see if that's something that makes a good match. And if it doesn't make a good match, then that's fine and just move on. But if it does, then that's great. And now you have a partnership that you can just move forward and benefit each other.
I like that a lot. Definitely like that a lot. Since we had this debate yesterday, and this would kind of be a good ending point. You can answer it yes or no. You can, answer it however you want. But talking about NIL, we again talked about NIL a lot today. But do you feel like this NIL policy has answered that old question of should student athletes that student athletes deserve to get paid?
I think that it took it in a different direction than what other people were anticipating. I feel like rather than some people say that the university should be paying or compensating their athletes, I think that this the NIL policy takes it in a different direction, and instead of taking more from the university, it allows student athletes to get paid in other ways, which I think is very important. So I wouldn't say it. I say it answers it somewhat, but definitely not fully.
Okay. All right, I'm there. I'm right there with you. It was a step, but it has not completely resolved the issue.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. And then my last question for you is kind of what's next for you? Again, talking about like our pillars of identity development, leadership education. I know you're a leader on your team, and identity development piece. You spoke a lot about some things that are important to you. But as far as like career wise, like kind of what are some things on your plate as you are a junior now? But like kind of what are you looking forward to in the next few years and even beyond?
Yeah, so graduating next year from Maryland. Still have that COVID year for field hockey, so that could be something that I'm definitely would be interested in. And then also maybe moving up to the senior national team, if that would be something that I'm given that opportunity, then that's definitely something that I'd want to capitalize on. But then career-wise, I obviously want to do marketing. I want to stay in sports, or I want to move to a startup.
Okay.
Because I just love being in a fast-paced environment. So I think either of those things. I had an internship with a startup this past summer, and I loved how fast-paced and how things changed every day. But I also love sports so much too. So that's definitely another option I could go in.
Okay.
So, yep.
Gotcha. A lot of good things on the way for you. Before we close out, again, I want to say congrats for making the under 21 team, and best of luck at the Junior World Cup. But also for our listeners out there, kind of what's their best way to stay connected with you and even follow along, I guess, with the Junior World Cup this spring?
Yeah, so I'm active on both LinkedIn and Instagram. LinkedIn, I post about like more of my journey and things that I have going on, especially with Gossett and with my NIL. And then with Instagram, I post a lot about my different activities and experiences within field hockey and within Maryland.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Well, Emma, again, appreciate your time here. Definitely enjoyed the conversation. Our listeners out there, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Maryland Made Podcast. Please be sure to download, subscribe, and share our episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get our podcast. And also, you can watch our episodes on YouTube as well, so you never miss an episode. But make sure you're following Maryland Made on Instagram and Twitter at MD Made Terps, and connect with us on LinkedIn as well. And until next time, we're out.